Picture a city the size of 470 football fields, born from the ocean itself, where trillions in cargo glide through every year. Now erase the noise. No shouting workers. No engines coughing smoke. No crowds. Just machines moving with perfect rhythm, as if the port itself were alive. You are looking at Yangshan Deepwater Port in Shanghai, a $20 billion giant built on artificial islands nearly 19 miles from the coast. It is one of the most important trade hubs on Earth, and it runs like a thinking machine, guided by 5G networks and artificial intelligence. Robotic cranes and driverless vehicles move over 40 million containers a year with inhuman precision. But this port is more than an engineering miracle. It is a message. In an era where supply chains decide who wins and who loses, China didn't just build infrastructure, it built a silent weapon, a port that never sleeps, never complains, and never gets tired. How was such a machine created in seas battered by typhoons? And what does this ghost port mean for the future of global trade? To understand why China invested $20 billion in a port with almost no people, we first need to look at geography. But before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. For decades, Shanghai was the undisputed king of trade, but it had a fatal geographic flaw: the Yangtze River. While the river brought wealth, it also carried massive amounts of sediment, making the waters around the city dangerously shallow. Most of the old coastal areas had depths of only 23 to 33 feet. In the early 2000s, a revolution was happening in global shipping. Ships were getting gigantic. The new generation of mega container ships, capable of carrying more than 20,000 containers, required a minimum draft of about 49 feet to dock safely. Shanghai faced an existential crisis: remain shallow and become obsolete, or find deep water. But there was no deep water near the coast. The nearest suitable location was a group of small granite islands called Greater Yangshan and Lesser Yangshan, located about 19 miles offshore in the treacherous East China Sea. The proposal sounded insane. Build the largest container terminal in the world on a series of islands and connect it to the mainland with one of the longest sea bridges ever conceived. This was not just a construction project, it was a battle against nature. The East China Sea is famous for its violent typhoons and massive waves. Engineers had to figure out how to transport thousands of tons of cargo every day across a 20-mile bridge, the Donghai Bridge, which had to be strong enough to withstand Category 15 typhoons and flexible enough to resist seismic movement. By choosing this path, China was not just solving a depth problem, it was literally reclaiming the sea. They decided that if geography did not serve their ambition, they would simply rewrite geography. This set the stage for one of the most aggressive land reclamation projects in human history, turning jagged rocks into a flat, high-tech fortress of trade. When Chinese engineers first stepped onto the Yangshan Islands in 2002, they did not find a construction site. They found a nightmare. It was nothing but jagged granite peaks rising out of a turbulent ocean. To build the most advanced port in the world, they could not simply build on the islands. They had to rebuild the islands from scratch. This was the beginning of an engineering feat that would redefine the limits of land reclamation. The first challenge was the terrain. Greater and Lesser Yangshan were too small and too mountainous. The solution was brutal and effective. Thousands of tons of explosives were used to blast apart the granite peaks, flattening the islands and creating a level base. Even so, much more space was needed. Much more. Engineers launched a massive dredging operation, sucking up millions of cubic yards of sand from the seafloor and pumping that material into the spaces between the islands. This was not just filling gaps, it was creating hundreds of acres of new, stable land where only open sea had existed before. To prevent this artificial land from being swept away by the powerful currents of the East China Sea, massive dikes and breakwaters were built, reinforced with tetrapods, four-legged concrete blocks designed to dissipate wave energy during typhoons. However, building on reclaimed land carries a huge technical risk. Settlement: if the ground is not perfectly stable, the weight of millions of containers and 100-ton cranes would cause the port to sink or tilt. To solve this, China used a sophisticated technique called vacuum preloading and vertical drainage. Thousands of plastic pipes were driven deep into the seafloor mud, and giant pumps sucked out water and air, rapidly compacting the soil. What would naturally take decades to stabilize was achieved in just a few months. This created a rock-solid foundation capable of supporting the heaviest machines on Earth. As the land took shape, the focus shifted to infrastructure. They did not build just one terminal, but a series of them, each more advanced than the last. Phases 1 through 3 established the massive scale, but it was Phase 4 that truly shocked the world. This final phase added about 24.8 million square feet, fully dedicated to automation. This stretch of dock allows 7 220,000-ton ships to berth at the same time. To understand the level of precision required, the underwater foundations of the main cranes had to be perfectly level across miles of coastline. Despite being built on reclaimed land in a seismic zone, the result is a feat of civil engineering that rivals the Great Wall in ambition. China did not wait for the future of trade to arrive. It paved a $20 billion road in the middle of the ocean. It turned a cluster of fishing rocks into the Gibraltar of the East, a fortress of concrete and steel designed to dominate the oceans of the 21st century. While Yangshan's physical construction is impressive, its true genius lies in its invisible architecture. This is Phase 4, the largest and most advanced automated terminal in the world. Walking through it is a surreal experience. It is a massive high-speed industrial ballet where every performer is a robot. The brain behind this operation is a terminal operating system, the TOOS, developed in-house. It processes millions of data points per second, orchestrating the movement of thousands of containers without a single human intervention on the ground. The stars of this show are the AGVs automated guided vehicles. They look like enormous flatbed trucks without cabs. Unlike traditional trucks, they do not need drivers or steering wheels. Instead, they follow a complex network of more than 6,000 magnetic markers embedded in the ground, combined with ultra-fast 5G connectivity and LiDAR sensors. This allows them to navigate the terminal with millimeter-level precision, stopping and starting in perfect harmony to avoid collisions. They are powered by electricity, making the terminal far quieter and cleaner than traditional diesel-powered ports. Above them, the gantry cranes tower over the ships. In a traditional port, an operator sits in a cramped cabin about 164 feet in the air for hours. At Yangshan, operators sit in a comfortable office miles away, monitoring everything through high-definition cameras and joysticks. One operator can control several cranes at the same time, because the system automatically performs 90% of the movements. As soon as a container is lifted, artificial intelligence decides exactly where it should be placed in the yard to ensure the fastest possible retrieval when the next ship or train arrives. This is not just about saving labor, it is predictive logic. The system knows which container needs to leave first and organizes the stacks accordingly. It is a 24/7 operation that never gets tired, never needs a lunch break, and does not suffer from human error. To truly understand the scale of Yangshan, you have to go beyond engineering and look at the brutal reality of the numbers. In the world of global trade, efficiency is the only currency that matters, and China is printing that currency faster than any other country. For more than a decade, Shanghai has held the title of the busiest container port in the world. But the addition of the Yangshan megacomplex did not just maintain that leadership. It created a gap that the rest of the world struggles to close. In 2024, the port of Shanghai handled more than 49 million TEU/20-foot equivalent units. To put that in perspective, that is more than the combined volume of the 5 largest ports in the United States. While major Western ports like Los Angeles or Rotterdam often suffer from congestion, strikes, and aging infrastructure, Yangshan operates like a high-speed processor. In the first half of 2025 alone, Yangshan's automated terminals handled more than 14 million containers. This is not just a small improvement, it is a complete reinvention of what a port can do. The most devastating number for China's competitors is dwell time. In the shipping industry, a ship only makes money when it is moving. Every hour sitting still means losing tens of thousands of dollars. Thanks to 5G-powered automation, Yangshan can load and unload ships up to 30% faster than traditional ports. A mega container ship that would take 2 days to be processed at a European or American port can return to sea in less than 15 hours at Yangshan. This efficiency creates a magnetic pull. Shipping companies prefer to dock where they are served the fastest. But it's not just about speed, it's about trade density. Yangshan is the main gateway of the Made in China phenomenon. From the smartphone in your pocket to the electric car in your garage, they most likely pass through these robotic gates. By concentrating such a massive volume of trade in a single automated hub, China has achieved economies of scale that are impossible to replicate. The $20 billion cost may seem high, but when you consider that it moves trillions of dollars in goods, the investment pays for itself in pure strategic influence. This dominance has triggered a global arms race in port technology. From Singapore to Abu Dhabi, countries are rushing to automate their ports and catch up to the Yangshan standard. However, China has a huge advantage. It is not just building ports anymore, it is now exporting crane technology, AGVs, and software to other countries. This means that the brain of global trade is increasingly being written in Chinese code. When you look at the charts, one thing becomes clear. Yangshan is no longer just a port in China. It is the standard for the entire planet. If you want to know what the global economy will look like in 2030, don't look at Wall Street, look at the silent robotic piers of the East China Sea. But perfection has a price, and total dependence on technology is Yangshan's greatest vulnerability. In a world of growing trade wars, this ghost port is a high-value target, because every crane and every vehicle is controlled by a central digital brain. A single sophisticated cyber attack could paralyze the entire global supply chain in minutes. The threat is not just digital, it is geopolitical. In August 2025, the United States imposed heavy sanctions on Yangshan's massive fuel storage facilities, sending shockwaves through energy markets. This exposed the port's role as something more than just a container hub. And as climate change intensifies, this $20 billion fortress faces the fury of nature. Rising sea levels and super typhoons threaten to swallow the very islands China fought so hard to create. Is Yangshan a permanent monument to human genius, or a fragile giant, one mistake away from collapse? You might think a robotic port in the East China Sea has nothing to do with you. But the reality is that Yangshan is the hidden engine behind your lifestyle. Every second saved on those automated piers turns into cents saved on the products you buy. Whether it's the latest smartphone, a pair of sneakers, or the components of an electric vehicle, Yangshan's efficiency is what keeps global inflation from exploding even more. By drastically reducing operating times and human error, China has effectively reduced the distance tax. This port is the reason a product made about 4,970 miles away can reach your door, faster and cheaper than something made in your own region. However, this convenience creates a dangerous dependence. We are now tied to a single automated gateway that holds the keys to the global market. As Yangshan continues to break records, we are forced to ask, did we trade our industrial independence for cheaper shipping? This is not just a port, it is the most expensive bet in the world on a future where geography no longer matters. Yangshan's $20 billion ghost port is more than a terminal, it is a monument to a new era. It represents the moment when humanity handed the keys of global trade to machines. China proved that with enough capital and engineering will, even the ocean can be tamed and digitized. But as we watch the silent, rhythmic movement of these robotic titans, one unsettling question remains. Is this a model for the world, or a uniquely Chinese fortress that no one else can copy? While other nations struggle to modernize their aging ports, Yangshan is already moving toward its next evolution. Fully green, zero-emission maritime corridors. The port that critics predicted would sink decades ago has instead become the rising star of the 21st century. Whether we see it as a technological miracle or a geopolitical threat, one thing is certain: the future of trade is no longer a human activity. It is a silent, automated, relentless machine, and it is only just beginning.